On November 22, 1963, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 35th President of the United States, was shot and killed by a person or persons yet unknown in Dallas, Texas. The events, the actual assassination, those involved, peripherally and directly, the investigation, and the aftermath have all been discussed, written about, and dramatized in hundreds of publications, including our 4 episodes of The Ghosts of Dallas. This episode will examine the facts, accusations, speculations, and evidence of the various conspiracies and the assassination. The indisputable facts. The president was shot and killed by a person or persons still in question. No individual or group has ever been legally charged with the murder. The only suspect, Lee Harvey Oswald, was killed less than 48 hours after the presidential assassination. Lee Harvey Oswald was shot and killed on live television by Dallas nightclub owner Jack Ruby. In the 1980s, the body identified as Lee Harvey Oswald was exhumed from the grave and examined by forensic pathologists who, through dental and bone X-rays, determined that it was, without doubt, the remains of Lee Harvey Oswald. Most of the crime scene evidence was lost or destroyed during the period immediately following the assassination. The United States government conducted 2 official investigations into the assassination. The first was the President's Commission on the Assassination of President Kennedy, the Warren Commission in 1964. This commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald alone committed the crime. The second was the 95th Congress Select Committee on Assassinations, 1979. This committee could not name a specific person or group responsible for the assassination but specifically stated that a conspiracy could not be ruled out. The conspiracies. Almost from the day of the assassination and certainly after the publication of the Warren Commission report, many proposals have arisen as to who killed the president and why. In fact, to this day, the Dallas Police Department continues to receive letters and calls claiming to know who, what, and why the president was killed. The individual theories involve the US government, the military, the intelligence community, disgruntled Cuban refugees, organized crime, the Dallas police, fringe groups, and individuals. Time does not permit an analysis of each proposal. Instead, we shall address the elements common to most. The first group of theories denies that Lee Harvey Oswald was involved. The second group each involves Oswald but in a secondary or diversionary role. There is little or no evidence to support the idea that Oswald was not involved. In fact, the opposite is true. Most of the hard case evidence points directly to Oswald. The rifle, a model 1938 Italian Carcano found on the 6th floor of the school book depository was, by serial number and the testimony of Marina Oswald, as well as ballistic testing, was that purchased by Oswald, using the pseudonym Alec J. Heidel, 9 months earlier. The bullets recovered from the presidential limousine and fragments from Elm Street in Dealey Plaza matched the Carcano rifle. Oswald carried a long paper bag to work the morning of the assassination. He told co-workers it contained curtain rods. His Oak Cliff apartment had a window with curtains on a rod. He had no need for curtain rods. The book depository was sealed off within a few minutes of the killing. A head count of employees showed the only person who had earlier been there but was no longer present in the building was Lee Oswald. Oswald was identified in the 6th floor window at the time of the shooting by Howard L. Brennan, who gave a detailed description of Oswald to the Dallas police. This was the description the police broadcasted to all patrol units. About 45 minutes after the assassination, Oswald was stopped on the street by Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit. When Tippit exited his patrol car, Oswald drew a revolver and killed Tippit with 4 shots. Within an hour, Oswald was arrested. The revolver was in his possession at that time. The reason for killing Tippit has been the subject of speculation, but it does not seem to be the action of an innocent man. Finally, 8 months before the assassination, Oswald attempted to kill General Edwin Walker, a figurehead of the John Birch Society. This was not known until attested to by Marina Oswald and was confirmed by neutron analysis of the bullet from a wall in Walker's home. Most of the better-known conspiracy theories accept that Oswald played some role and may have been one of multiple shooters. Most rely on either first or second-person reports or associations, almost all of which are unsubstantiated. Most conspiracy theorists ignore or deny Oswald's attempt to kill General Walker. The Walker shooting indicates Oswald's erratic behavior and desire to kill an important public figure. As noted before, it is virtually sure that Oswald did attempt to kill Walker due to the analysis of the bullet, photos of Walker's home among Oswald's possessions, and the Warren Commission testimony of Marina Oswald as well as that of Oswald's confidant George de Mohenschild. Could Oswald perform the shooting? It has been implied and even outright stated by some that Oswald was not capable of firing the known 3 rifle shots in the time indicated. Oswald was a trained U.S. Marine and had qualified on the standard 300-yard rifle course at least 3 times with open, non-telescopic, sights. Most now agree that the 3 known shots were fired in about 8 seconds. It is not just possible to accurately perform the shooting, but it has been demonstrated more than once. The distance was only 88 yards and Oswald may have used the rifle's open sights. At least 3 groups of individuals have duplicated the feat, once by U.S. Marines and once by a group of randomly selected shooters. This latter group was assembled by CBS News. None had any prior experience with the Carcano rifle. Were there other shooters? This question has been the most controversial. If there were more than one shooter, there was, by definition, a conspiracy. If so, where were the other shooters located? The most popular belief places one or more shooters behind the picket fence about 125 yards west of the school book depository. This would also identify a shooter only 25 yards behind and to the right of Abraham Zapruder, who stood on a 3-foot pedestal and filmed the entire shooting with a handheld 8mm movie camera. A rifle of any substantial caliber fired from this location would have produced a blast that almost would have caused Zapruder to flinch or jerk. There is no such movement in his film. Observers on the triple underpass reported smoke arising from behind the fence. This was likely cigarette smoke. Virtually all rifles produced since the beginning of the 20th century fire cartridges using smokeless powder. Cigarette butts and footprints were found behind the fence, but none were collected. Additionally, if the fatal headshot had been fired from behind the fence, it would have been at an angle of between 15 and 45 degrees, entered the president's head above and behind his right eye, and exited from the back of his head left of center. The actual head wound was confined to the right side, indicating little or no angle between the president's head and the shooter. Further, if a bullet exited the president's head from the back, where did it go? Several hundred persons were in Dealey Plaza that day, many were on the infield between Elm and Main Street, in the direct line of fire from behind the picket fence. No one in that area was hit or reported any injury or passing projectile. No projectiles that do not match those intact or in pieces fired from the Carcano have ever been found. Other possible locations for shooters were the county jail building on Houston Street or the old courthouse on Houston between Main and Commerce Streets. Both seem unlikely as they were operating governmental offices. Almost any location in a building around Dealey Plaza would have been 50 to 100 yards further from the target than the school book depository. It has even been suggested that a shooter was present in the storm drain along the west side of Elm Street. It is inconceivable that someone could fire a rifle from such a location and not be noticed by the surrounding crowd. Why is there confusion regarding the number of shots fired? Dealey Plaza is constructed very much like a loudspeaker. It comprises Houston Street on the north side with Elm, West, Main, Middle, and Commerce Street on the southeast. The three streets descend about 24 feet before converging only a few yards apart at the triple underpass. Multi-story brick buildings ring the entire area. Altogether, it forms a natural environment for echoes. When a rifle is fired, it produces two sound waves. The first is the sonic boom of the projectile, which travels at twice the speed of sound. The second is the blast produced by the exploding powder, fuel. The cone of sound each makes is different and travels at different speeds. If the listener is in line with the projectile, the two sounds will be perceived as one. However, if the listener is off axis of the shot, the cones of sound will reverberate, echo, at different speeds and will strike hard reflective surfaces, concrete, bricks, steel, at various locations and will bounce at varying angles, making it difficult for the human ear to localize the origin of the sound. In 1967, a sample of 190 persons present in Dealey Plaza were interviewed as to where they believed the shots originated. 125 were uncertain about the direction from which the shots originated. Of the remaining people who expressed an opinion, 50% identified the area of the triple underpass, 40% identified the book depository. Only 0.02%, indicated the shots came from more than one direction. Why was Oswald killed barely 48 hours after he assassinated the president, and what was Jack Ruby's motive? There is speculation that Oswald was killed to prevent him from disclosing the underlying plot. Enter Jack Ruby. Ruby was a small-time strip club owner with minor mob connections in Chicago. Sam Giancana, the mafia boss in Chicago, told the FBI that Ruby had been no more than an errand boy for the mob. Ruby was not Sicilian nor Italian and was gay. Ruby had none but minor brushes with the law before killing Oswald. Ruby was well known to the Dallas police, so much so that he was usually ignored when he showed up at the police station or city hall. It was necessary that Ruby, who ran a shady business in 1963, get along with the local police and the local mob figures. Ruby frequently hosted police officers in his strip club and often supplied them with free drinks and perhaps other favors. On the morning of November 24, 2 days after the assassination, Oswald was to be moved from the Commerce Street police station to the county jail. This was to occur at 9 a.m. Also, at 9 a.m., Ruby appeared at the Western Union office on Commerce to wire money to one of his employees in Fort Worth. Afterward, he walked the few blocks to the police station where Oswald's transfer had yet to occur because the armored car to be used would not fit down into the underground parking garage. Ruby entered the station unnoticed at about 9:15 a.m., and when Oswald was brought down to the garage, he leaned forward and shot Oswald in the left flank. The bullet penetrated his spleen and severed the aorta. Oswald bled to death in less than 2 minutes. Ruby, who was known to act impulsively, always carried a revolver. He was tried, convicted, and spent the last 3 years of his life in the Dallas County Jail. His story never changed. He said killing Oswald would make him a national hero, and save Mrs. Kennedy from the ordeal and trauma of an Oswald trial. Ruby received congratulatory telegrams at the jail for killing Oswald from people across the United States. It is doubtful that we will ever know more. One cannot seriously consider a conspiracy without addressing the probabilities. Large conspiracies that remain secret are generally not possible. There is always a chance that someone will spill the beans for any number of reasons, including but not limited to conscience, money, fame, or a better deal with the authorities. Even the most hardened conspiracy supporter must admit there is a mathematical probability that, considering the number of people involved, someone will talk over time. If one assumes a 2% chance that someone will talk, the inverse says there is a 98% chance they will not. Not too bad. However, as the number of persons involved increases, the probability multiplies. If 5 persons are concerned, the chance that they will all stay quiet is 86%. There is now a 14% chance one will talk. When 100 people are involved, the probability that everyone will keep quiet is less than 0.2%. Inversely, there is more significant than a 99% chance that someone will talk. These numbers are speculative, but the concept is solid. Further, it needs to account for time. Suppose a large conspiracy to kill the president was real 60 years later. In that case, it is virtually certain that someone involved would have told a verifiable story. Conspiracy theorists are collectors. They collect small pieces of information, errors in procedures and statements by witnesses, reliable or not, crazy people, attention seekers, and liars. Professional investigators know that crimes are solved by verifiable and reproducible evidence. Innuendo, witnesses whose statements can't be corroborated, reports from secret meetings and the like are evidence but not good evidence. The majority of solid verifiable evidence indicates that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and killed President Kennedy. We at Dallas Live Tonight began this series with no preconceived conclusions. We found that there is a mountain of information available to the public about Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassination, and subsequent investigations. Is there a possibility of a conspiracy? Yes, but at this point it seems unlikely. We believe there will always be questions and will likely never know the entire story. Our sources are listed in the credits. Do your work. Ask questions. Decide for yourself.